Okay, hello and welcome everyone. This is Erin Slingerland here, a qualified personal trainer and a holistic health and wellness plant-based coach. And I'm so grateful for you joining me today because I'm very excited about my topic. It is just ending Veganuary, and so I thought with so many newbie vegans and so many people that have tried out this lifestyle and gone more plant-based and done just even a complete transition or just a slight transition, I thought this was a great way or a great time to do a vegan series, and also answer the most asked question I get, which is, why did you initially go vegan? So I'm excited to chat to you all about that. Okay, let's dive in. I wish I had a better answer for you. I wish that my answer was I went vegan for the animals. When I hear people telling me that was their reasoning, those are 1000% the people I want to be my best friends, because those are some compassionate as human beings. But unfortunately, that wasn't my initial reason. So you choose those people as friends and you choose me as a coach, because mine was, I want to look good, I want to be able to eat a lot, I want to feel good, I want to live optimally, evidence-based. So there's the difference. Friends and coaches who now become your friends, because now 5 years later I'm proud to say that ethics is definitely the reason I remain vegan. But more on that in an upcoming video. Why I'm still vegan will be that video. So embarrassingly enough, it wasn't initially for the animals. It was the fact that I love food and I love mass amounts of it. So let's backtrack a little. In my first year of university, I hate this hashtag, but it's always stuck with me, this hashtag first year spread. So demeaning, but anyway, that's what happened to me. I went to university, it was my first year, my first time out of the house and my set schedule, and I gained 10 kilograms onto my very small frame. And now, looking back now, it was definitely due to the copious amounts of alcohol I was having per week. But you know, when you are drinking for the first time, which I was, because I only started drinking at 18 and then I went straight to university. So when you have that like feeling of feeling so invincible and on top of the world, and you drink with all your friends every weekend, or well, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays. So it was definitely the copious amounts of alcohol that I was drinking that was making me gain weight, since I'd always been relatively small and not really had any issues with gaining a lot of weight despite my bad eating habits and my binge eating in high school. My option was certainly not to drink less, because there was no way I was giving up on that in university. So my next option was that I honestly had to look for something else. And I blamed my binge eating. I thought my binge eating was the reason I was gaining so much weight. And granted, I'm so glad that I had done that, because then it helped me address that issue that I did need to address at the time. And I can go more detailed in a different video about my binge eating, but it wasn't at all from any kind of traumatic event in my life. I thankfully have had the greatest upbringing. I'm completely blessed and lucky. So nothing happened that triggered my binge eating. It honestly just feels like something I was born with. And luckily it wasn't too extreme. It just was the fact that I really love to eat food, and I really have a lot of self-control issues over stopping eating, even though I'm completely full. And so that would lead to over-exercising or starving myself for the rest of the day, and not starving myself to the point of nutrient deficiencies or anything. I just was like, so I would hide and I would eat snacks when no one was watching, and always going back for more, and I would eat like, I don't know, like 10 apples a day. It was just ridiculous, really. And yeah, things have obviously changed so much since then. But yeah, so I was struggling with that, I guess, and I thought that was the problem. And I'd been living with it my whole life, so it just felt like it was something I was born with. So I thought, oh, I can't fix this problem. I was born this way. I'm always going to have this addiction to food. And the thing about addictions to food is it's not like drugs or alcohol, where you can remove the stimulus and the problem goes away, because 2, 3, 6 times a day you are confronted with the problem over and over again in every social situation. And the worst part is alcohol and drugs are bad for you. Food is good for you. And have been obsessed with nutrition and bodies and looking a certain way my whole life. So I kind of feel like 10, like the age 10 reminds me of like when I was already reading up on all that stuff, and I wanted to go to my mom to dietitian appointments until I was old enough to let her like send me to a dietitian to help me with my eating, help me with my peace of mind. So I was always acutely interested and researching it, and it's what I was reading books about and what I was looking up, and just my general accumulation of knowledge didn't help me like sort out my binging for some reason. Anyway, I feel like I'm going off track. So I knew that food was good for me, and I knew it was my fuel, and I knew how it had to fuel me. I just didn't know why I couldn't stop eating it, essentially was the binging problem. And I still had this problem going into university, especially now that I was gaining weight and I was drinking a lot and I was in an unsettled environment. And so I gained 10 kgs, I made some nasty habits, and I knew that something had to change. And I was like, oh, I decided I'm going to change. I'm going to start with a great exercise program. Even though I'd been exercising throughout, exercising has likely always been something that's come quite easily to me, although it's not always enjoyable. And so I remember taking photos in my first year restroom, some front, side, back progress photos. And I'll never forget sitting on my bed and looking at the photos, and I still have this little camera, and I dropped it, and it's still got the crack in the screen from me dropping it, and I just burst into tears because I was, I self-hate, but self-hate isn't even strong enough. It was like self-loathing and self-disgust. It's so sad for me to think that that's how I saw myself then, that skinny and cellulite free and all of that was the only way to be. And now I have this like extreme love for myself, and I really do see the human body as an art form. And it even gives me goosebumps thinking about now how every different shape of health or every different view of health is just a different color. And I don't see a body, and I don't see muscles and ligaments and things. I see different shapes and different curves, and I see, every like health, like yogis or bodybuilders or moms, or just, every different shape and every different shade of health is just a different color on the spectrum. And sometimes you're a little devoid of color, and then that's when you're a little less healthy, and that's how I feel is something I can help with. Or sometimes there's the complete opposite. Sometimes you're an extreme of two colors and they just clash. Like, that's the extreme bodybuilders where they no longer look nice anymore, and they're starting to like somehow have an extreme color and also fade their color. I don't know, I'm going way too in depth on my view of bodies right now, but just know that it's changed so much, and I'm so like obsessed with different body shapes, and now like my own body, and just like loving the heck out of myself. So I'm so glad I'm out of that mindset, thank goodness. But yes, I remember the self-disgust that I felt right then, and I thought something has to change. And I had actually found let me get to the Google search. So then one night after my psychology exam, I knew something had to change already. And after my psychology exam, I am diagnosed with adult ADHD, so I take Concerta, not anymore, but I was taking in university, so it would help me study. Can you notice that I have adult ADHD? I feel like a crazy person. Yes, so I took Concerta, and I took it later in the day because I was writing a psychology exam. So after my exam, I was still definitely very focused. And after this focus, I naturally started researching, because that's what I love to do in my free time, and I naturally always go to something to do with eating or fat loss or body like optimization, something in those lines. And I searched my famous Google search, which I now created an entire course based on, which is how to eat as much as I want and never get fat. And guess who popped up other than Freely the Banana Girl? Guys, who remembers Freely? Oh my gosh, what a drama. She was like 5 to 7, maybe 10 years ago. She was huge in the vegan scene. So if anyone remembers her, please hit me up. I want to chat about Freely. So such a good heart, but wow, some crazy methods. Goodness gracious. Okay, so I made this Google search and Freely came up, and this was actually, I originally met Freely probably a year before that, so the beginning of my first year, and I'd watched her videos. I'm not sure why. I was like maybe obsessed with her weird ways, but I'll tell you what it was. She has a banging body, and I wanted to have her body. And then I watched her videos, and I saw her smashing in 3,000 to 4,000 calories. And I'm like, what? This girl is telling me that I can have the body of my dreams and smash in all the food, and it was all the foods I love. It was carbs, carbs, carbs. Her motto was carb the F up. I mean, that sounds like my jam. So I listened to her. I knew her methods were a little crazy. My inner nutritionist was waving some red flags, but I was just curious. And so I watched her for an entire year before I then made this Google search again and found her, but it wasn't her, it was veganism. That was the buzzword. And I was like, interesting, let me look more into this. And I didn't sleep that night. I went into a deep, dark, not very dark, deep, light, beautiful hole, and emerged the next day from my room, which was attached to the kitchen, and I opened the door and I announced to all my roommates, I'm going vegan, and I distributed all my non-vegan food, and I decided from that day I would be vegan. But damn, I had nothing to eat and I knew not what to do. So the first thing I did was buy Freely the Banana Girl's ebook, because I knew that she was crazy, but I was like, but she's got the results. So I'm very much like, I had the logical side, but then also the curiosity and the trial and error side of me, where I like just kind of got to know. That side was screaming at me a bit. So I did try it. And I bought the ebook, I went shopping, and damn was it difficult. I ate 10 banana smoothies for breakfast. I was having Datorade, which is like dates and water, for lunch. And it's like a smoothie. Then I would have that was like a snack, 5 mangoes for lunch, some like peaches or blueberries or something for a snack, and then you could have, it was raw till 4. So then at 4 o'clock, or basically dinner time, you could have a cooked meal, but of course it was carb the F up. So I could have like potatoes or sweet potatoes, because I knew that sweet potatoes had certain benefits that I wanted, and so I chose sweet potatoes over potatoes. But man, was it hard to smash in that amount of food. And not even the amount, is that I was always hungry, but somehow stuffed at the same time. But my digestion was incredible. I had no sweet cravings. I already started noticing like really good energy. So I was like, well, she's onto something. So I did this for a week or two, and then I knew, okay, you know what, Erin, this isn't for you. And so I just decided that I needed to go back to the drawing board, and I needed to do some more research. And in this time I had told my parents, I think I should do a whole separate video just about my parents' reaction. It was very interesting. But yes, I knew that, firstly, I knew there had to be a loophole to getting to eat as much as I want and never getting fat. But then I was like, okay, I'm always someone that needs to try and like find the second loophole. So I was like, well, there's another loophole. Freely's way isn't the only way. And so that's when I started researching like a real logical person, and put on my little thinking cap and looked more, tried to read some scientific studies, and looked at more doctors, there at doctors' work and peer-reviewed studies, and man, did that change the game. So I think I remember this moment where I sat back, and I had my I had a huge desk and a huge wall, and actually just a huge room. It was so beautiful. I love 187 Linwood. That's where I lived. And it was just covered with sticky notes. And I'll just never forget sitting back and being like, they're all liars. The dietitians I'd gone to, the work that I'd read online, like everybody was telling me there was only one way, and there wasn't one way to eat and to lose weight. It was a holistic approach. It was an accumulation. Freely was wrong. I sat back and I was like, this is freaking ridiculous. They're all wrong. Everyone is wrong. And I don't mean completely wrong, because they all had such crucial elements to health and wellness and feeling good and losing weight and just the whole package. They all had crucial elements, but they were all claiming that their way was the only way, that all I had to do was eat less and exercise more. Calories in versus calories out. And no one told me, do you know what it's actually about, Erin? It's about your own body, firstly, and secondly, it's about not how much you eat, but what you eat. What you're feeling is going to dictate how you look, how your skin looks, your gut health, your hair health, how you feel, your energy levels, your overall happiness, your mood. it's like everybody just forgot to tell me this crucial element that firstly, well, this is now thirdly, that actually it's a holistic approach. That's what I needed. And I felt completely riled up and empowered in this moment. I mean, still right now, you can see it. And I was so fired with this passion because my passion was to help people. And I was like, I can help people figure this out. I'm going to do it for myself. I'm going to figure out what it is. And I sat there and I researched, what does the human body need to function optimally? And I decided I was going to figure this out. And I researched then, okay, we need these nutrients, these macros, these micros, and how do we get them? Through these specific foods. And it just happened to be that most of the food, well, all of the foods except for maybe like omega-3s, the best sources were all plants. And I was like, man, these doctors are onto something. I'm onto something. And I decided I was going to make nutritionally sound, like optimal diet. And I wasn't even going to focus too much on what tasted good at the time. I just wanted to see what would the optimal diet look like. I needed some stressed foods. I obviously needed some leafy greens. I needed some beans and legumes. I threw it all together and I sat back and I was like, this is a masterpiece. This is what the world needs to hear, that you don't need to eat less or exercise more. You can eat as much as you want, and if you're eating the right stuff, and obviously not, binging, I now choose to very much eat mindfully, although I definitely still have days where I do eat more than I need, and I just see it as me like having a real good time. I'm not binging out on food anymore. It's not this dangerous cycle. I'm still an emotional eater. I still have those days, but yeah, I'll never forget sitting back and just having that moment and being like, I'm onto something. And I've still got that exact same fire and passion today because I still feel like I'm onto that something. And even in that moment, I was like, wow, I've done so much work. I've done weeks and weeks of research, but I knew that it was just the beginning, and I knew that knowledge and my curiosity was my superpower because I was willing to be the guinea pig. I was willing to put in the work. I am willing to be the guinea pig and put in the work and trial and error things. And as long as it has like the ethical backing behind it, there's no reason why I shouldn't try 1,000,001 things, like, veganism, but also intermittent fasting and whole food plant-based and, different protein powders. So yeah, okay, well, I don't want to ramble on too long, but essentially, yes, my vegan journey was an overnight journey. It wasn't initially for ethical reasons, although it is now why I'm still vegan, and I now know that I can eat as much as I want, and the answer is really just whole food, plant-based, although 5 years ago there was no such thing as a junk food vegan because it was so unknown in South Africa. Not a single friend or family member of mine even knew what veganism was. I couldn't go to any restaurant and tell them that I was vegan and them understand what I was asking for. So basically I couldn't eat any store-bought foods because we didn't really have adequate knowledge of how to understand labels, and I was still learning all of that. So I just figured the best way to do it was to buy things raw and to work from there and to make my own meals, and that really taught me how to cook. And the crazy thing is, when I made that list of foods that like make us optimal human beings, most of them I'd never even tried in my life. Like a lot of them are stuff like I'm even getting to try in Korea, and things from Japan, and like certain mushrooms, and I mean so many things are emerging right now. But I completely like radically changed my diet from things I'd never tried before and different styles of eating. And yeah, I mean, it's also a big experiment now. So yeah, I even tried Freddie the Banana Girl's raw to full crazy method. I learned that people are wrong, and that even my parents are wrong sometimes, or often. I mean, yeah, I guess I learned the crucial lesson that we all go through, where your parents don't always know what's best for you. Only you know what's best for you, and you have to become a master of yourself and your own body with their guidance. I learned to love myself and learned to love all beautiful bodies, and I got the true heart of compassion for all sentient beings. And I also want to just say that I didn't go vegan not for the animals because I didn't love animals. I've always been incredibly compassionate and empathetic. It's just that I'd never questioned the way I was raised. It's not like I didn't care. Yeah, I just never questioned it. It was just the way it was. It was just acceptable. And until someone like showed me via YouTube videos, Freddie the Banana Girl, that there was a completely different way to live, it just never occurred to me. And I'm so glad that I found her. As crazy as she was very much the reason that I went vegan, and she is the start of you know, she was the start of my course, my plant-based bod course, and she led to me doing my first like competition, like not her directly, but yeah, so interesting. Anyway, so without rambling on too long, that's my vegan story. That's initially why I went vegan, not for the animals, but because I just wanted to eat more. So if you love to eat more, if you love to eat in mass amounts, then you understand my struggle. And if you also have a ridiculous fear of getting fat, I know that's such a first world fear. I wish I could say that I'd gotten rid of it, and the glad thing is that now I have gotten rid of it. But yeah, back in the day, that was my ridiculous first world problem fear, even though I didn't grow up in a first world country. I grew up in South Africa. Anyway, moving on. Thank you for watching. Please let me know about your vegan journey. Let me know if you remember Freddie the Banana Girl, any questions you have, any ideas for future videos. Yep. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. I think the next one that I've scheduled to do is the why I'm still vegan, so tune in for that for some more compelling reasons on why you should try this lifestyle. I'm not one of those crazy, like, I'm gonna push you into this. I very much understand that it's not for everyone, but I do believe that we should all be eating more whole food, plant-based, and so that is what I'm advocating for. Thank you for watching my very long video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.